So the treasury broke and they say that recession jamming. So to foreign countries, Trini start migrating.
Welcome back. The plan to proclaim the remaining sections of the Public Procurement Act continues to get support of both private and public sector. Joining us live this morning to give his views on the matter is former head of the JCC, Afra Raymond. Good morning, sir, and welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Mottley.
Right, so let's get straight into it. So last week, Cabinet took the decision that tomorrow the full proclamation of the Act will come into being.
Yes.
Tell us about your feelings about that.
Well, the first point to viewers and to you, Mr. Mottley, TV6, is that I welcome the decision to proclaim the remaining sections of the Procurement Act.
This has been on the books for
many years.
So 2015.
It's been in discussion for many years.
It has been in discussion for many years.
And the law was passed as Act number 1 of 2015. So it's 8 years plus.
8 years plus.
Yes. So in fact, it's long overdue,
right,
and it's extremely welcome. Just to make myself totally clear, I think I need to take the opportunity in this opening stanza to also say to you that we had a situation that I think we also need to clarify a little bit, because the Attorney General wrote to the Chief Justice a year ago, in April last year, asking for a checklist of items that needed to be done by the judiciary to implement the law.
Right.
And the Chief Justice responded with a 29-page document from the judiciary listing its concerns with the Act. The Attorney General went so far as to keep his very first press conference on the 22nd of June 2022 to say that, in fact, he was going to hold up on implementing the procurement law because of the serious concerns expressed by the judiciary. He appointed a small team to work on it, and he identified 19 serious concerns that needed to be resolved. And I think we need to know, because I've been challenging, I've read the 29-page document. It's not substantial, I didn't think. I think we need to find out whether the 29-page concerns of the judiciary have been withdrawn, whether the 19 concerns identified by the AG have been rectified,
right,
or what. I don't think it's acceptable that we have a zigzag, which is what we call it in Trinidad, right, and we just come up and say that tomorrow we proclaim the Act. We had 2 senior office holders in this country making very serious declarations, and I think purely as a matter of clarification,
no, but that's
we need to be told.
Yeah, but that's a very important question.
Yes.
You're talking 29 pages from the Chief Justice,
from the judiciary, 19 concerns identified by the AG. And
but we're told tomorrow the Act will be proclaimed.
It's happening tomorrow, and I'm happy
entirety.
for that. I'm happy for that. But I think some clarification would assist everybody.
But let me ask you though, notwithstanding the concerns from the CJ,
yes,
and even from the
AG Amor,
the AG Amor,
yes.
Did you, or do you, your organization that you once represented, I know you're still part of the industry,
yes,
have any concerns about the current Act?
Well, I could deal with that now. And I could say to you that the main concern is this. Conceptually, we live in a republic, and the republic has as its central concept, the fundamental concept, that we are all equal citizens. We no longer have any royalty. It can be condensed in saying equality before the law.
Right.
And I am making the point, although it was lawfully passed in December 2020, I am making the point that if we observe equality before the law, we have to question the justification for the exemptions. So legal fees, accountants' fees, bankers' charges, and government-to-government arrangements are not under the examination of the Office of Procurement Regulation, which we had intended it to be. It was removed in December 2020 by amendment.
Right.
And I am saying, if we have equality before the law, why have those exemptions been granted? Why are lawyers or accountants given exemptions? Why not engineers, architects, or surveyors?
All right. Mr. Raymond,
yes,
we are taking for granted that our viewers
yes,
know what we are talking about in terms of procurement. They're
sure,
just hearing procurement.
Sure.
Procurement Act. And I think it's called a Procurement Act, Procurement and Disposable
Public Property.
Property.
Yes.
What does that? What is that in essence,
sure,
really?
Let me explain a little bit about that. The Public Procurement and Disposal of Public Property Act is intended to control and oversee all transactions in public money. Public money is the money that belongs to you and me. It is what we call our patrimony. It is taxpayers' money. Yes, and disposals of public property would include land and different types of rights and licenses and so on. So it's supposed to be an extremely powerful institution that gives proper oversight, modern, transparent oversight of
Transparency,
our country's affairs.
accountability,
Yes, and good governance.
and good governance.
Absolutely.
Those very, very important
Absolutely.
issues.
So that is a kind of summary of what it means.
Right. So now that it is in place,
Tomorrow.
what? Well, yes, it comes in place tomorrow.
Yeah.
What do we expect?
Well, what would happen, Mr. Mottley, is that in fact the various bodies that transact public money, we call them procuring agencies, those bodies would have in fact to start following the rules and the laws set out within the procurement law. A significant number of them are already taking steps to train staff and put systems in place. And that will produce a series of outcomes that I could summarize by saying a break from the bad old days.
Right.
Because in the bad old days, which is what we're living through now, someone could be a wrongdoer. They could steal as much money as they could get away with. They never get caught. Even if they get caught, they're into endless appeals and judicial this and that. They have more money than me and you. And in fact, the system we are living in now is one in which wrongdoers are rewarded. And people who do the right thing pay a heavy price. And this is intended to reverse that and bring back a series of orders in terms of how the society is run. It's a very important moment for the society.
We should also see some improvement in our corruption index.
Absolutely. It's a significant step forward. That's why I started off by saying I welcome it tremendously. It's a significant step forward. And certainly, if we're looking at those indices about corruption perception and so,
yes,
I would expect a year from now, when we're looking at those things again, that numbers would have improved.
It should.
Yes.
Of those concerns raised by the Attorney General,
yes,
would any of those in alignment with your issues with the Act?
No. My main issue, the one that I just summarized, was the one that these exemptions have been granted with no justification for certain professions and certain occupations. And in fact, those weren't among the concerns identified by the judiciary. And of course, we don't know what the Attorney General's 19 points were. He could have mirrored some of the judiciary points or found fresh ones of his own. We don't know what they are. The last point I'd like to say, Mr. Mottley, because I know we don't have an less amount of time. I'd like to say that the regulators' term of office, the regulator is the chairman who runs the Office of Procurement Regulation. The inaugural regulator was a gentleman called Munila Lalchan, and his term of office ended on 11th of January. This year. So it's over 3 months he's been out of office, and the office has had no regulator, no chairman.
So anything could happen.
The regulators are appointed by the president. So this is not a question of politics of Dr. Rowley and his government. This is in the hands of the president. The president makes the appointment after consulting with the prime minister and the leader of the opposition. But my point is that the office needs to have a permanent, properly appointed regulator. I believe Mr. Lalchan did a good job, and I would certainly support it if the current president saw fit to reappoint him, because we have someone who has performed. Or
you're making a plug there for the man.
Sure.
Yeah.
Or it could be that the president decides they want to go a different road.
Right.
In which case, we need to have a transparent process to select a suitable candidate.
Well, we're talking about transparency. This entire thing is about transparency and accountability.
Yes.
We're supposed to see going forward even more. I mean, you talk to the government, they perhaps will tell you that it had been done in any event, but, you know, when government is giving out big contracts, we are supposed to see much more clearly playing out in the public's domain how these bids are processed, who is making the bid.
Absolutely.
That's what is that what we're supposed to see?
That is the intention. So there's supposed to be transparency in terms of who are the approved contractors.
Right.
So you have a list of approved contractors, a common list, and suppliers. Then you have the RFPs, the invitations to tender. Those are also centralized and fixed at a point in time. And then, of course, you have the results of the tenders, which is what you're speaking to. Who was awarded and on what basis, and what were the amounts of the contracts and the final cost. All of that is to be summarized in an annual report.
Let me ask you
from
this.
The OPR.
It's a very, perhaps considered a controversial question.
Not at all.
I'm not too sure how prepared are you to deal with controversy. But how does this at all speak to political financiers?
I think so. It doesn't speak to it directly, because if you look within the Act and you search in PDF, you wouldn't find that phrase. So the phrase is not there.
Well,
if you want to be literal, yeah?
I mean.
But ultimately, what happens in the country is that people pay finances into political parties, and then they have a say in who gets a contract and on a job and so on and so on. And what this does is that it fixes the responsibility for awarding contracts on a procuring officer within a procuring agency. So there's a biological person within each agency that is actually supposed to award the contracts. That person with the responsibility for awarding the contracts is also the person who would face the court in the event the law is broken. Under the current system,
right,
if something wrong took place at TNTech or WASA or HDC or one of these sorts of big state agencies, the agency itself may be sued.
Right.
And you may find the agency paying a fine, but the actual individuals in the agency don't necessarily have to face the court. The new system is one in which all of the penalties are custodial, except for one, and it is the same person signing the contract who is facing the court. So I expect that to slow down or break the political party. You
have given quite a lot of expectation in this particular act that is to be fully proclaimed. I want to ask you, how confident are you that once this is proclaimed, that things are going, this is Trinidad and Tobago, things are going to go in accordance to the dictates of the act, that people are not going to be meandering around some kind of a loophole within the act, if there are any, and perhaps maybe you can talk to that too. But how confident are you that things are going to go smoothly for Trinidad and Tobago as it relates to the transparency and accountability in terms of public procurement and disposable?
Well, all of these questions, as you indicated, Mr. Mottley, are contested questions. They're not settled questions. It will be a heavy contest. But I am quite confident that we have made a big step forward and that we'll be going into a positive direction to answer the question in a short manner. Yeah,
and I think perhaps maybe that is a very good way that we could end this segment
Thank you very much
today. Thank you so much, Mr. Afra Raymond, the former chairman of the GCC Joint Consultative Council.
For the construction industry.
For the construction industry.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing the time with us on the morning edition. Well, we're going to take a break now, but we're going to go to an image of Boko Boardwalk walk sent by Sanjay Ramdath when we get back.